First and foremost, a mindset change. It's a change in the thinking of leadership that we have to future proof ourselves. The market is hungry for it, there's a consumer base for it. For that, the mindset needs to change to be able to adopt new things. Inefficiencies are also scaling with it. And that's the worst thing that you have as a potential manufacturer.
If I'm running a manufacturing business, how do I know it's time to make that shift?
I think brand is all about a logo and tagline, some colors. Taking a loss of $1 more significantly than making a profit of $1 is a massive insight. The supplier was potentially contributing to 90% of our total defects at this quality gate. After your system has come in, share has dropped to less than 10%. The first step is, as I mentioned earlier, is to have that mindset.
Today's episode is a little bit different. Usually it's me and Vele talking about the marketing industry, or we invite other designers and marketers on the show to ask them what they think of the industry and how things can be improved. But today we thought, what if we bring on one of our long-standing clients to see how it's been for them since the branding and the strategy work that we've done for them, let's say 2 or 3 years ago, and what their journey has been like ever since then. So, with that, I would love to welcome Srikar Reddy, the CEO of Hypervise. Hello, Srikar. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for taking some time off for this podcast.
Hi, Dharini. Thanks for having me.
So, Shrika, you've had a very, very interesting journey. And I was wondering, maybe you could just give us a little bit of a background into yourself.
Right, like most average middle class Indian boys, especially from South India, was good at math and science, so ended up taking the plunge in the engineering world. I went to Vich Pilani in and got out of college in 2015. And all through that period, we were very excited about robotics and artificial intelligence, of course. It was very different back then, something which was more of an undercurrent than the way it is now. But that interest kind of kept us going. Just right out of college, we decided, along with three of my friends, to start something in the robotics space. We started building mobile robots for the construction industry. Thesis was that robots are already available widely in the manufacturing environment, and they're a little less so in the physical world around us. I mean, we have been told that the robots are coming, but it didn't seem like that to us. So we said, why don't we set out to solve a very difficult problem? We started building an interior wall painting robot. Over many generations, we perfected it and brought it to a stage where we felt we could go to market with it. Once we went to market, we realized that perhaps we've been building in a silo, because what the market needed was so different from what our hypothesis was of what would be useful. So that's where things really started, right? Robotics was kind of the starting point, building mobile robots, trying to solve difficult problems, and then around about 2021, 2022, we took a step back and I started thinking about what would be more urgent in order to create an impact. What kind of urgent problems of the market and the industry can we solve? That's when we realized that taking some of the expertise and learnings from robotics and applying them for real world applications in the manufacturing industry seems to be the right approach, because the amount of work that is to be done in a manufacturing environment, especially using technology, and the efficiencies that can be improved, we realized was massive. And that's when we kind of pivoted from a pure play robotics product company into Hypervise, which is basically an AI-based solutions brand meant for solving problems along the value chain using our core platform, but then being open and receptive to what customers' problems are. That's what has been driving us, and that's been my personal journey. The learning from using my strengths and skills to build robots and solve a problem which we felt was very important, but the market was not really willing to kind of take the same view from a commercial standpoint, and then having the maturity to kind of move towards something which is more urgent, and understand that ultimately we are here as a business to solve people's problems, and that's what motivates me. That's what has been the DNA and the culture of what we're building at Hypervise.
That's really interesting. And something that you talk quite a bit about is Industry 5.0. But for someone who's never even heard of Industry 4.0, maybe you could explain this to us in layman's terms?
Right. Industry 4.0 is basically a theme of technologies which is meant for bringing data out of machines and making them more connected. Right. As we all know, the Industry 3.0 was all about the assembly line and automation to the extent where there are a lot of special purpose machines and systems that are able to kind of orchestrate things in isolation, right? That's when the Siemens and the Rockwells of the world have built PLCs and SCADA systems, which can basically remove the whole analog way of programming machines into more of a digital way of setting, configuring machines. Industry 4.0 is that phase which is intended to kind of bring everything together, where one machine can talk to the other. The whole idea of Internet of Things is the primary technology which drives Industry 4.2. But there's also an element of integrating IT technologies, right? What's typically managed at a headquarters, at an enterprise, at a corporate level, versus what happens at an operational layer in the logistic parks and the manufacturing facilities of large organizations. It's kind of merging them both so that there's more visibility, right? So previously, the leaders on companies would have very siloed information. And for them to go and extract information, they had to go speak to the people and they had to run long exercises to be able to get access to information, which is very critical to decision making. And Industry 4.0 was meant to kind of bring everything together. It's been around for nearly 15, maybe 20 years. The surprising part is that there are organizations across the world that are still trying to catch up. And of course, it has been increasing year on year. But the important thing that we have to understand is that over the span of the last 15, 20 years, the technology landscape has evolved and moved so fast that the idea of Industry 4.0 for, say, manufacturing and production facilities may somewhere become irrelevant at some point in time, right? It's about understanding how to best play catch up and how to use what is best and current in the context of their industrial operations. So how does this all lead to Industry 5.0, right? So what is then Industry 5.0 if Industry 4.0 itself is about connecting machines and people are still playing catch up? So Industry 5.0 places the onus away from collecting information from machines to directly enabling humans to make decisions without having to take that intermediary layer of building connected systems, right? Of course, there is a level of abstraction, there's a level of technology that has to bring these pieces together. But then you don't stop at just say, okay, you know what, I've connected this machine, I've connected 25 of my machines, I know the efficiency of each machine, I can kind of fold them up to see an overall equipment efficiency, and great. Okay, now I have what my plant's OEE numbers are. Great. But what are you going to do with it? Right? Organizations' preparedness to understand how best to use these metrics and then align their decision making at a rapid pace, right, is what the next phase of engineering and development for the industry is going to be. So that's where Industry 5.0 comes in. It's placing the humans at the center instead of having machines and data as our core. We're looking at people and their needs at the center of how industrial manufacturing operations have to work. So how does this play out in action, right? Instead of connecting various machines and kind of looking at what my overall equipment efficiency is, the Industry 5.0 lens is going to be, what are my customers expecting from me in the next 2 quarters, and what best can I do to adjust my production schedules in order to meet my customers' demand? Using that, what kind of data should I be able to configure? Well, how do I send not just a one-way communication of data coming out of your facility, but being able to create an interactive loop of being able to manipulate operations and equipments and processes at large scale and orchestrate them through a human-centric approach. And that's possible with the help of AI and, of course, a connected layer of technology in between. So really, Industry 5.0 is basically an evolution of the idea of having data driven output from machines. But then we don't stop at data and information. We go the last mile in terms of keeping the human decision making at the heart of it, and then work backwards in how best to use this. So Industry 4.0 then essentially becomes a means to the end and not the ultimate goal itself. So that's the lens that I think Industry 4.0 5.0 is. There's a lot of chatter about this. Industry 5.0 is a very new concept, something which will only evolve over the next decade or so, and definitely new perspectives will emerge. But this is my take on what industry compared to 4.0.
So if I'm running a manufacturing business, how do I know it's time to make that shift? Are there any telltale signs? Do I have to go with 4.0 before I go into 5.0? Could you give us a little bit of clarity on this?
Right. So first and foremost, if you're running a manufacturing business, it's all about mindset change, right? So industry 4.0, 5.0, all of this is first and foremost a mindset change. It's a change in the thinking of leadership that we have to future proof ourselves. It's not enough to do the bare minimum, right? It's about understanding that every customer
Right.
that I serve also has a host of options from whom he can potentially buy products and materials, other than me. And everybody is going to sooner than later move faster towards adopting a more efficient way of working. So the first thing is to have an open mindset around change in the thinking and mindset. And especially this is generational, right? Most businesses that I've seen are either listed corporates, which have strong corporate governance and a professional management across a streamed hierarchy, or they're family run businesses, right? Family run businesses have a very indigenous tribal thinking, right? They know that what worked for me 35, 40 years ago for 25 years is something that I take pride in, right? So that's the culture that perpetrates into the organization. So the first thing is, and I see most of the next generation leaders trying to bring that change. And these are guys who men and women who have basically been educated outside of India in the Western world, seen progress at an industrial level, which is far bigger than what their own business would have been doing. So that's the welcome piece. And of course enterprises also are having stronger, bolder visions now over the last decade, but then perpetrating that culture down to different people is still something that's a work in progress. So the first thing, if I were to answer, I look at it in two ways, right? So the first part is the mindset and culture change, right? If you see and notice that your culture is still eschewed to something in the past, something which is at least a decade or 2 decades old in terms of their ways of working, not the values and principles, right? Hard work and customer centricity and being able to collaborate with people still remains the core fundamental values. But then when you start looking at your ways of working in terms of your strategies, your operational tactics, right? That's where you first go and see, are we playing bold? Are we thinking about what's next? Are we looking about how our business can move forward, not just do 4, 5, 6, 7% growth? Can we really hit 15, 18% growth? The market is hungry for it. There's a consumer base for it. For that, the mindset needs to change to be able to adopt new things. So that's the first thing. The first sign of as a manufacturing business is to understand that whether that culture is there among you as a leader, the people around you as a senior management, and is that perpetrating down to the shop floor users? Because most often the shop floor users are the one who have the most information, and they could make or break a change that you want to bring in place, right? And you don't know, sometimes having them on board is so critical that it can essentially make or break. Something that works very well for someone may utterly fail if there's just no alignment from the people who have to use it and understand and leverage it. So that's the first piece, right? The first piece is the mindset and culture across the organization that you need to build. Playing bold, understanding that you have to build for the future, and understanding that you're going to continue to live in a VUCA and the new HMLV, high mix, low volume kind of a mindset. Everybody wants customization. We're not happy with just getting what everybody else is getting. Right? That mindset, the high mix, low volume mindset needs to kind of come out. And the second telltale is in terms of your metrics. Your metric is in terms of what are the major incidents that you have seen in the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years in your operations. Have you had one big recall of your dispatch of your product from a customer? What were the root causes? Has that happened again? Maybe there was a big batch recall and then you did something to fix it. Everybody's on their toes, to make sure that everything is right. But then you see something happen again 12 months later. So going into the patterns of your metrics on the operational data, right? Especially recalls is the most obvious ones. Second is obviously customer feedback.
Right.
Are the customers happy with the quality that you're getting? Are they happy with what you're producing and delivering to them? The next one is scrap and wastage, right? Are you able to keep your scrap and wastage in control as you scale your output of the plant? right? Because if your scrap is increasing linearly versus in correlation to your output, then your inefficiencies are also scaling with it. And that's the worst thing that you have as a potential manufacturer, right? You do not want your inefficiencies to scale as you move higher and higher, towards bigger volumes and scale your operations. So that's the most important thing: understanding your metrics at a product recall level, at a customer satisfaction level, at a scrap level, and several others. And of course, as a manufacturer, safety is extremely important. We were sitting with someone who said, for every accident, there are at least 100 near misses, and for every 100 near misses, there are at least 1,000 unverified, unsafe practices. Right, unsafe. So safety is so critical, right? So that's the order of control that you need to bring. If you control 1,000 unsafe acts, you're potentially end up saving one accident. So safety, and then at the rework that's happening, the amount of operational expense that's going into scrap and rework, how much time your people are spending in fixing orders and in fixing batches, or even going into the tooling, understanding, doing the root cause analysis of why things have gone wrong. And then the third element is, of course, quality control, right? How many recalls have you seen? Is your customer really satisfied? Are you able to get repeat business? What are they saying about your product and your delivery in comparison to others whom they're sourcing from, right? So I would say these are the two ways that you can identify there's a need for change, and there's a need for someone like us with Hypervise or others in the market that you need to bring in and kind of do an audit of your systems. Of course, we can help do audits of system, but audits of people is very, very leadership driven. So those are the two things, really, that the first thing is the mindset. Are we sticking to something which has worked a decade earlier and expecting that is going to keep taking us forward, or are we ready as an organization to move and take bold steps in an incremental fashion? Your vision can be far away, but are we taking incremental steps to show that, okay, compared to what we were 2 years ago, my people are far more risk taking. They're happy to adopt new technologies. I've seen an increase in the number of projects that we are taking up for digital transformation compared to what we did earlier, right? The volume of projects that you as an organization are able to sustain from digital transformation perspective is a strong indication that you're moving forward culturally. And then the metrics speak the truth, right? So recalls for quality, scrap rework for efficiency, and then accidents and near misses for safety.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
So an interesting perspective from a customer that we heard the other day. He's managing a very large manufacturing facility, and he said to us that, look, for every accident that we see in our facility, we know that there are at least 100 near misses that we have potentially missed, right? And for every 100 near misses, there are perhaps thousands of unsafe acts that have been done to kind of trickle down to that one accident. So really controlling the upstream and ensuring that the leading indicators are monitored. You have a trace of them, and you are proactively fixing them is what is ultimately going to help you prevent accidents.
That's amazing. And something else that you said was your inefficiencies also scale with your business. I think that's something a regular person wouldn't really think of, and they would just think, yeah, that's how it should be. But it's not. You can actually do something about it.
Exactly. That's where operational efficiency and excellence comes in, right? So, and I'm sure there are a lot of leaders out there who understand this, but it's less intuitive for some of the people who are working downstream and who are driving projects to understand that. So it's important to know that the interventions have to come. Of course, there's a whole new, the other thing which we'll talk about is what to expect from these interventions, how to be realistic about the value they will create, and how sustainable you have to be with those practices. But yeah, as I said, making sure that your inefficiencies don't scale as you keep your organization growing and your volumes and your top line growing is extremely important, because it's very different with manufacturers compared to like information technology and other technology companies and other industries, right? There, the idea of inefficiency can be controlled at a certain level, right? You have levers that you can quickly pull, right? Because lastly, knowledge work, right? It's people that you can control. It's, where your cost centers are. They're very apparent to you, and then you can go and do something about it after a period of time. You can blitzscale, and then you say, hey, look, I've done things that don't scale, and now I'm going to find out how to do my efficiency. But for a manufacturing entity, it's extremely difficult to do that, right? You're just not going to take 4 lines that are working well. I'm going to go set up a new plant. I'm going to replicate these exact 4 lines the exact same way, train the people the exact same way, and expect that my profits are going to double. No, what you're doing is effectively increasing your capacity and your ability to earn revenue, but you're not controlling your ability to increase your profits because you're not making the interventions which can help you control those inefficiencies.
So this is incredibly interesting because it's such a technical thing, so much practical usage, right? But I'm just curious, how does this work with your positioning? Because we did your positioning work for you about 2, 3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. How was that for you? From seeing your product as a technical thing and then seeing a whole different side to it from a marketing perspective. What was that experience like for you?
Positioning is something that I discovered with you guys. So I have to definitely give you a big shout out to you. The way you helped us understand what's positioning. Of course, a lot of credit goes to our chairman as well, who understood that it's extremely important. But through the journey of positioning, right? So what is brand positioning? And we would always think, especially from an engineering mindset and people from a technical background, they think brand is all about a logo and a tagline and some colors and the positioning. You go, you put it on hoardings or you put it on your phone or somewhere, and then that's it, right? But there's a lot more to it, and I think
Yeah.
positioning is everything. Positioning is about who you are as a business. Positioning is about how you contextualize your vision of what you want to do in this world to where you will end up being, right? So that's, I think, the translation of what positioning is. So it's great to have a dream of where you want to be, but understanding where you want to be related to the world is where positioning comes in. And then it got us thinking about who are our customers, how do they think, how do we impress upon them. No, actually, it was not about impressing upon them. It was more about what are their emotional cues towards their logical problems, right? So it was this beautiful blend of bringing emotional drivers that impact logical decision making, and that exercise helped us go deeper into what people are actually really expecting. And then once you go deeper and then you understand those layers, then you can come kind of surface back up and distill the information into your core messages. But it's not like they're going to be vastly different from what you may have thought are the real say problems that you want to solve, but they're so much richer and clearer in terms of their intention, and you have a lot more clarity around why they are the problem. And that's so important because everything after that is related to communications, right? How do you communicate for those problems, and how are you going to get to these root causes? So going to kind of understanding and hypothesizing what your users and your customers problems are, and then going deep down into why they are the problems, and then kind of surfacing back up on that journey. Maybe you'll find different ways. Maybe you realize that no, maybe this root cause is actually not yielding towards what I thought is going to be the ultimate problem that I have to solve. But it gives you that clarity. So that's how positioning was very important to us. Ultimately, I think what you helped us realize is that over a series of exercises, we have understood, and I would say consolidated on the understanding that there are two primary and needs that we are solving for people in this market as a business for us. The first is creating operational efficiencies, right? People want things to be more efficient in what they do, from their day-to-day tasks to as a team when they are in tasked with a project, with the goal, and over an annualized manner, whatever they have to achieve. Efficiency is all about being able to make data-driven decisions. Is also about reducing unnecessary costs from the process. So these are the kind of tones that look at operation. And the other important thing that we realized through this exercise is the idea of loss aversion. It was very interesting to kind of come up to this because I'm a big fan of Daniel Kahneman and his work with thinking fast and slow. And the one insight that people would basically perceive taking a loss of $1 more significantly than making a profit of $1 is a massive insight, and something which holds good in terms of the
Yeah.
enterprise client base and
Yeah.
especially the manufacturing world. So if we are able to help customers and our stakeholders understand that we can help them avert losses by putting in place systems and minimizing those risks, that's also a massive hook and a way in which we can kind of build out the communications to then go out and build the products and solutions to solve their problems. So positioning for Hypervise was a brilliant eye-opening exercise for us. It gave me so much clarity about why we do what we do, and it helped us build the communications thereafter with our customer base. And it has been helpful across the board. Whether it is me talking about what our business identity is with my own core group of senior management and leaders, how they take this message back to our employees, how we go and speak to our customers, how we speak to our partners. So it's all kind of emanating from this central idea of position. And I highly recommend that positioning is an exercise that everybody should do. And if they have a chance, they should potentially do it with you as well.
Thank you so much for that, Srikar. That's beautiful. It's so nice to hear from a client how your work has a rippling effect over time. It wasn't just a one off thing for you. It wasn't just clarity at the beginning of the exercise, but it's actually found a practical usage over the past few years for you. And that's wonderful to hear. But I was wondering, maybe you could give us a real life example of how you used this brand storytelling and this communication style to help with one of your own clients.
Right. I mean, most of our work has most of the good business that we've had has come through more of
Mm,
outbound, and we're just starting to see some positive outcomes of our marketing
mm,
exercises. And I think we leverage a lot of that positioning to bolster our own identity and then run our on ground on field pitch presentations with our clients and with the stakeholders, and that has definitely served us well. We were able to strike a chord with many stakeholders. In terms of maybe stories, I have maybe I'll take two quickly. Like both are at different ends of the spectrum. Right? One is a very large
right.
enterprise customer, practically the largest car maker of India, and then there's another a smallish medium sized business which is serving some of the OEMs in India. Right. In the first case, we were able to kind of tap into the enterprise corporate offices where they're driving the digital transformation initiatives, and what started as perhaps a one-off proof of concept, and the name of the game here is proof of concepts, right? The only way that manufacturing businesses are going to try anything with AI and computer vision to solve problems is through proof of concept. And we did POCs, and our first project we did with them, I mean, we were getting the sensation that this could be really big. And once we started it, we had a very steep deadline. We said, okay, the client says, okay, fine, okay, we're going to try this. We want the solution up and running in 8 weeks, in 2 months. And we said it's tough, but then they said, you got to do this, and that's the only way it works. So, and we said, okay, fine, let's give it a shot. And then our best people, our best minds were kind of on that product, and it eventually took us about 4.5 months to actually, actually deliver it. And did we survive? And are we getting more business from there? Yes, we are. Why? We are because we were able to sensitize them about what the process is and how we are able to actually deliver the solution which will give you results
Mm,
and impact. So when a lot of this technology is new, the people who are involved in driving the day-to-day story of the project have to understand the nitty-gritties of what takes time and where are the bottlenecks. Kind of bringing them into confidence and being transparent with them and communicating with them that we want to create these efficiencies. It's about understanding your data first. It's knowing that data is a big constraint and helping us collect and organize that data. Not organize, but largely collect. Because defect data and things related to inefficiencies are already very small in manufacturing, right? So identifying them and kind of collecting that data is the first piece, and then the next piece is about our approach and our strategy. Look, this is a complex project. There are layers of approaches that we have to bring in. This is how the data kind of works across the model, and then it's again iterative. You have to go into the process, iterate on it, and then come out with, get it to a level where the accuracy is working for you at 97, 98%. So you can say that, okay, project is good success, and then we're ready to go. Of course, 100% is a myth. 100% is absolutely not possible, but 99% 99.9 is possible. And we highly recommend having human in loop processes, especially when you're working in predictive technologies. So that was the story, right? So the crux is that we went in trying to solve for their operational efficiencies. The expectation was get this done in 2 months and get out of our face. And but they're like, they stuck around with us for 4.5 months, and now it's been 1.5 2 years, and we have done several projects with them. And we have a good, they understand that we are transparent, and we are really focused in creating value for them. We are not chasing of vanity. We are really after trying to solve problems and learn from them. And we've done so many proof of concepts with our customer, and we've learned so much, in that process. And all of this has definitely been driven by that positioning and the idea that our brand represents operational efficiencies and being able to reduce defects and reduce potential losses that might come. So for us, the icing on the cake was, and of course, these guys have Japanese roots, and they said, look, our plant is excellent, and we see maybe 4 or 5 defects a year, and then when our system is flagging all of them in a month, and they're like, okay, wait, we're perhaps onto something which could be useful, right? So that's when the confidence built, and then you're doing more work for them. And that's the game. That manufacturing is a game of margins, and being able to do that a little more better, a little bit better, is what is going to improve the way they go about things. Yeah, I mean, that's the real story with the big enterprise customers, right? So being able to be patient and bring all the stakeholders to a table is what helped us there. And proof of concepts, we do a lot of proof of concepts. We help our customers, move from proof of concept to proof of value, and then thereafter they're going to start seeing real efficiencies. And not to say that the 4.5 months is going to be the standard for everyone. The beautiful part was the 4.5 months for first project, and when we started kind of replicating it, we started exponentially dropping the amount of time it took us to kind of deploy it, right? So we went from 4.5 to 2.5 to under 2, and now we are in a position that we are having a strict aim to kind of replicate those kind of systems and solutions in under 30 days, and hopefully in the next 12 months get it down to maybe 2 weeks. So that's the incremental impact that you see. The first time you do something, especially the data is a bottleneck, understanding is a bottleneck. But once you solve for them, it's going to move very quickly, right? So that's the patience that has to be built in, and that's something that's a theme for the second story I have as well. One of our clients is a key supplier for another automotive manufacturer of the country, and they're a traditional business. They've been running it as a family run function for a while, and basically these guys were in big trouble in terms of losing a big chunk of their business because of their quality defects, right? So their customer was ready to say, look, if you don't fix this quality gap that we're seeing, then we don't think we'll be able to give you further orders. And that was a moment they kind of that was a good time. Timing is everything in business, and we were lucky to kind of be at the right time in the right place. And then when we met the gentleman, we said that, look, we can solve this problem. And we set it up, scoped it out, and we started. So they have around 6 lines, and then we said we're going to deploy a vision system for your first one, and then let's see how it goes. So then we built out the first one in about three months, so 2.5 3 months. And after that, interestingly, we got a call from their customer, and they said, look, you guys have done, we heard that you've done a great project with these guys. Previously, the supplier was potentially contributing to 90% of our total defects at this quality gate, right? And after your system has come in, that share has dropped to less than 10%. So now we have a bigger problem on our hand. Now you got to go and fix this with all the other suppliers and ensure that our overall defect rates reduce from that quality gate. So this is the whole game around efficiency and loss aversion, right? It was driven by the fact that you don't want to lose business and you want to increase your efficiency. And then we went in, scoped out, delivered a solution, and ultimately your customer is happy with what you're doing. You've won back trust, and in that process we win as well. We are able to kind of explode and expand our footprint to other players in the space. So these are a couple of use cases on two, I would say, two ends of the spectrum that we have dealt with.
Thanks so much for sharing that with us, Shrikar, because it's so interesting for us to see how you're using your positioning and, the words really to communicate with your clients and to solve their unique problems, regardless of the size of the manufacturing plant or the particular issues that they're dealing with, right? And it's not every day that we get to work with a business that's in your industry either. So it was quite the eye-opening exercise for us as well to do that strategy and that positioning. But that brings me to my next question, which is, so once you've done your positioning, right, how was it for you to see that come to life as a fully fledged brand identity? What was that experience like for you?
So once we had the positioning in place, we understood what are the underlying themes, and then we going to dive deep, right? And one of the things that we did together was be able to test them. We kind of created these themes around the core value propositions, and we decided to go test them if they're actually valid or not. And we came up with ideas around simplicity versus complexity. Which one would potential stakeholders gravitate to? Similarly, specificity versus versatility, and basically is like something which is off the shelf and ready to use versus something that's more customized. And then finally, something which is scalable or something which is very indigenous, isolated, and working well, reliable. So I think once we went into the A/B testing, we did some campaigns. It was very interesting to know what are the kind of feedback that we get, and what are the kind of click through rates we were seeing in these messaging that we were able to see. We were able to understand, and ultimately it led to the idea that customers are looking at something which solves their problems and is able to deliver the value proposition with simplicity as well as customization, but they also want it in a way that is scalable, right? So that was a big problem for us as a business to go and figure out. We got to figure out a way to keep things very simple, and yet we have to make sure that it is customized to our stakeholders' needs, because they firmly believe that their needs are different from others' needs. Of course, you can put them in the same bucket, but solving them definitely has to have some element of customization, versus using something which is just out of the box. They also need it to be extremely reliable and scale it as their needs scale, not just in one sort of isolated implementation, but also kind of move it across different value streams and functions, operating lines, as well as geographies. So that's the key part, right? So positioning led to kind of testing the hypothesis, and then that led to consolidating these core ideas and preferences into what became our brand. And basically our brand today stands with the principles of rigor, ambition, collaboration, and humanity, right? And each of them has a very distinct function in terms of how it represents us. The rigor comes from the idea that we are relentless, we are passionate, and we are driven to deliver highly precise, accurate, and reliable systems for our customers. We don't rest until we've delivered value. So that comes as part of the identity in terms of being rigorous with our approach, being relentless in our efforts, and being passionate about getting to where our customers want to get to. And then you look at ambition, right? So we are always looking at what's next. We're looking at the cutting edge nature of the technology. We're trying to adopt what's the future and bring it to today, and bring the same thing to our customers. We are on the bleeding edge of technology all the time. We want to be always aware of what is coming, and make sure that we are ambitious towards bringing that into our operations. And then you look at collaboration, right? So collaboration is where we work with our customers as partners. We see us, and our customers have also seen us as partners more than as vendors and suppliers, because we're building a journey which can potentially last years and even decades into the future. So the collaboration piece is important both with the people and the organizations. And finally, it's about humanity, right? Understanding the human nature of the people we work with. Business is driven by people. Being empathetic, towards human emotions, human desires, what is driving them, what are the emotional triggers which is contributing to their logical decision making, and addressing them, being empathetic towards people's needs, whether it's our own team and our own employees, about how they like to work with us, what their aspirations are, what their lives are outside of work, respecting them, and extending the same thing to our customers and to our suppliers and partners, right? Having that empathetic, human centric nature of doing business. So that's how I think the brand has been set up, and perhaps is a little different for an industrial technology company to have these kind of pillars. But we see the world evolving very rapidly, and this is, I think, positioning and a brand identity which is working now. And I do believe that it is going to be an evolution. It's not a We should not think of it as shifting goalposts every year, but something that has to stay current for a period of time. So in that sense, I think that's how our brand story has evolved. And we fully commit to living and breathing these principles as part of our brand, and that's what we want to get recognized for. We want, when people think about Hypervise, we want people to think that, hey, these guys are rigorous, these guys are very passionate, these guys are ambitious, these guys are very collaborative, and these guys are ultimately they're caring for me and the needs of my people. Is what we want to think about when either an employee or a partner or a customer thinks of us.
It's interesting that you say that because there's a common misconception that B2B companies don't need branding. It's all about networks and sales teams for them. And I was wondering, since you've been through a branding exercise and you can compare the before and after, what is your opinion on this?
I think it's an ambition. It's something that we keep aspiring for. There's no way for me to, I would say, confirm that that's how we are looked at. There's still a long way to go. We are a very young company, and of course, we will adopt tools and techniques to evaluate that. But I think from the pockets of stories and anecdotes that we keep hearing, I'm very happy that. We as a team, whether it's our frontline members, whether it's our back end staff, whether it's our administrative people, everyone involved are kind of living with the same values and identities. So having kind of crystallized this, it's that itself has taken a good 2 years, but living and breathing them is also an exercise which I think is going to take a fairly long period of time. And after that, you'll be in a position, maybe 4 5 years into it, you'll be in a position to say, okay, how have we fared on our position, how have we fared on our brand values, are we really eschewing to them? If not, then how do we change them? But these are questions we keep asking in I would say our business reviews, our strategic meetings, our annual planning exercises. And these are things that most importantly have to be embedded into the way we work. When you walk into work every day, when you present yourself, you got to kind of live and breathe that. And it starts with you, starts with me as a leader, starts with my team. And if you are carrying these principles, right, I am rigorous. I'm making sure that I'm disciplined with my effort with the people. I make good on the words I commit to, and I put in my effort. I'm ambitious in not only for myself, for my team, for my customers, in getting them more than what they want. I'm collaborative. I'm not sitting in a silo and saying that I get to take all the decisions and I'm right all the time. It's about being silent and listening more about others' perspective and being inclusive as well as challenging them. Right? Collaboration is not just accepting what somebody says, but also challenging them and creating an environment of constructive conflict. And finally, ensuring that you respect people's I would say, emotions, right? You have to be cognizant of them. You may not be in a position to take decisions which cater to everybody, but being aware of them is extremely crucial. And it's a constant process, Kavinda. I believe that it's something that people have to kind of believe and embody, and that's when you get called out for it as an identity and as a virtue that we possess as a team.
That's really good to know. Thank you so much, Srikar. And If someone from the manufacturing industry were to be listening right now, what would you want to tell them?
Right. For anybody listening, the first step is, as I mentioned earlier, is to have that mindset. If hopefully if you're watching this, if somebody's, even intent on changing their status quo and looking and adopting at certain things, you may be already doing several initiatives, and it would never harm to kind of bounce off ideas with us, and we're very receptive in that way. We don't have take a transactional nature to our business. Some of our customers have been in conversation with us for nearly a year, and only then we got us business. There are many more who have been in, we have been in conversation and who have not become our customers. So the one thing that I'd like to call out for everyone watching is we are happy to learn and exchange ideas, which is extremely important for this industry. So you can reach out to us. You can reach out to me on my LinkedIn. Fairly active, send out responses quickly. My core team is on LinkedIn. You can reach out to us on our website. Write to us. We generally ensure that there's a response from any one of us within 24 to 48 hours, and then we walk you through the process. Right, as I said, something we believe in is the simplicity. So one thing I can assure you is that I'm not going to fear you. We're going to not scare you away with complexity. We're going to make it simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy. Right, you still have to go through the process. You have to understand that it takes certain amount of time. I know more than anybody else in this industry that time is everything. And for potential managers, executives, leaders, directors who are watching, it's all about, okay, this quarter or doesn't make sense. But it's important to kind of plant the seeds. Let's get started with the conversation. It is quite likely that we may already have a solution which might fit your requirements very quickly, in a matter of days to weeks. If it doesn't, then definitely we will be very transparent with you. We will try to share what knowledge we possess. We will try to learn from you about what your problem is, and then set up something which can yield results, measurable results, in a reasonable and yet expedited, aggressive time frame. And our goal is to ensure that ultimately it drives some kind of business ROI for enterprises and for industrial customers. If anybody other than industrial customers are interested to get into this space, understand how computer vision, AI can help. For if you are an institution, whether you're working for governments, whether you're working for in the education space, in the media and entertainment space, there's still opportunities that can be taken up. We also take pride in delivering excellence through our solutions, not just return on investment. So we are happy to understand. Of course, it will be new, but hey, we were new 3 years back, and we have done well. And I'm very confident that having a good conversation with potential customers is going to yield something good for them and for us.
And if someone from the manufacturing industry is listening in right now and they want to work with you, what should they do next?
Right. So for anybody watching, I think you can reach out directly to me on LinkedIn. Our core team is on LinkedIn as well. We generally are very responsive there. You can reach out to us on our website. We make sure that we get back to you within 24 hours. If you have a stated problem, excellent. We can get going and talking immediately. If you don't have one, and you're looking to solve something which you're not really sure about, we can help you frame out the problem and scope out something that is reasonable, not only for you but for other stakeholders around you, to understand how we can go about solving that problem. So yeah, website, LinkedIn, are channels that we're very responsive on. So please feel free to reach out to us.
Brilliant. That sounds pretty easy. And that brings us to the end of the segment. So again, on behalf of myself and my entire team at Cranial and Fudge, Srikar, thank you so much for being here today and for sharing your time and your words and your experiences with us, because it's a very rare opportunity for us as well, to get to hear from the client a couple of years down the line how our work has impacted their businesses, and also just to know what it's been like for them, so that we too can improve our way of working. So thank you again, Srikar, and I hope to speak to you again soon, and best of luck with Hypervise.